I'm Dr. Jim Morris.
And I'm Dr. Jen Jones.
And Jen, this is the Archaeology of Childhood, Part 2. Because we learned that humans have such a long childhood. What we need is a really long podcast about childhood. And what we need is also more chance to show off our colleague's book. And therefore, like all good publicists, we have placed the book Pride and Place.
This book that's available from all good booksellers and bad booksellers.
Yes, and bad booksellers, and is available in more than just English.
It is. I think there is. I think there are versions in Chinese, Turkish, and yes. And I wouldn't say that I could successfully read either of them, but the covers look very fun.
Oh, that's good. So if we'd thought about this in more depth, we would have actually had all of the versions lined up. So like when someone is on the news or being interviewed, and you can see on their bookshelf behind, they've just got their own books kind of there behind, going, "Hey guys, buy my book."
It's a power move.
It is.
And if I was the sort of person who could think that far ahead, I would not write books with so many footnotes. And yeah, I'm not sure I can get there.
We should say as well, Brenna didn't actually bring her own book, that you were very modest in that. It was brought for you, wasn't it?
If I'd thought about it, I probably would have, though. That's yeah.
So in the last podcast, we talked about childhood, but we were pretty much talking about babies, weren't we? We were talking about kind of humans having babies and weaning. But actually, one of the things you mentioned was that childhood is really long. So actually, one of the things that'd be great to think about and explore in this episode is archaeologically, kind of how do we see that in terms of childhood, but also how do we see that kind of long childhood, the teenage years, the tweeny years, all those kind of different years that we've now got categories for, kind of did they exist in the past?
Yeah, how do we see that archaeologically?
Well, there's an argument that teenagers were invented by people who needed to sell something, and they needed a target market to sell something to, and that was the 1950s and the invention of the teenager. And I wouldn't go that far. So we do have older children. We know we have older children because we've adults, and you can't get from baby to adult without the bits in between. I think we can all agree on that.
Yeah.
But so like this, the sort of function of childhood is really interesting. And there's a lot of archaeological evidence about childhood, though I would say not a lot of people cared that much. Like many things that seem to involve women stuff, it's not been the chosen topic until, let's say, the face of the disciplines that look into these topics started to change, and people who were actively affected in their own lives by questions about childhood, about experience of raising children, started to be the people who were allowed to frame research projects and questions. So I would say, the last 40 odd years has been much more interesting for looking at these questions, just because of some of the people who are doing the asking have an actual, like me, they're really interested in the topic for personal reasons. But so there's a lot of archaeology about kind of childhood in that kind of later phase. But if we think about going back to our last podcast, which I'm sure everyone listened to in great detail, thinking about we need a longer childhood to learn how to be a better monkey. And we have this really extended childhood. You can break childhood down into phases. We are in the womb for about-ish the normal amount of time, given our size. We are infants, so babies dependent totally on their mothers, way less time than any other primate. We scaled it. An orangutan is breastfeeding for 7 years.
Whoa.
Yeah. We almost never do that except for in extreme circumstances. So ethnographically, from cultures around the world, we don't really have records of breastfeeding extending really past about 4 years, except for kind of in extreme circumstances.
I mean, that would end up being a Channel 5 show.
I think it featured in Game of Thrones, actually.
So. Oh, yes.
Yeah, there you go.
That is correct, yes.
Yeah. The Venn diagram of archaeologists and Game of Thrones watcher, just a circle. But yeah, so we can think about stages. So we've got infants who are totally dependent on one individual. Orangutan society sucks, right? They hate each other.
What?
Orangutans do not like orangutans.
I did not know this.
No, they do not. Like, males and females, it is not a harmonious relationship. They don't spend any time together. They briefly do, and then, and then it's just mommy and baby or solitary male that are just solitary.
They're too busy being librarians. That's basically what they're doing.
I did not realise that was their occupation.
There's also a crossover between archaeologists and Terry Pratchett readers.
Yes.
There we go. It's just a series of circled nerd. But yeah, so orangutans, for instance, 7 years, chimpanzees, 4-ish. Us, we're off the breast having another baby fairly quick-ish. And so we really limit that sort of infant period where it's just one person we're dependent on. And then suddenly, it takes a village. We have big, huge networks that we learn from in the period that we sort of call childhood. Right, this later childhood. And then eventually we turn into kind of adolescence, and people like to think about, whether different primates have something like an adolescent growth spurt, because if you suddenly grow a lot after sexual maturity, you're going to get one animal that probably turns itself towards reproduction and investing in reproduction, and the other sex in that animal is going to get bigger, stronger, more competitive. You get sexual dimorphism based on when that growth difference happens, right? Smaller females, because they go off and do reproductive things with their energy, and then the males keep growing. Yeah. So you've got different bits of growth. So we could think about kids. And kids, like sort of, I don't know, think about sort of up until about age 7. They kind of need help feeding themselves, doing stuff. Some children longer than others. Some adults.
Some teenagers might still need help. Yeah.
But you get sort of some sort of distinctions in being able to sort of fend for themselves. Often, in kind of old school evolutionary anthropology terms, this used to be associated with molar emergence.
Oh,
and it used to be that people would always say, right, well, when your first permanent molar comes out, you're feeding or foraging independent, right? You can feed on your own. Your second one is growth is complete, and your third one is sexually reproductive.
Right, interesting.
These are unhinged, and nobody believes this anymore.
Okay.
Like these are not unhinged in terms of theory, but they are unhinged from actual chronology of how primates really developed. But this was kind of one of the things that people put forward.
Not heard of that one, yeah.
Yeah, no, just that you would tie molar teeth emergence to various life stages. So people don't really use those. But you could think about, how does the biological critter get broken down? And we are biological critters. So, but we could think about, kids that are dependent on lots of other support networks, and then we have kids that are less dependent and they're doing more peer-to-peer learning. And that is kind of a lot of what the later bits of childhood are, is peer-to-peer. And we said, this is true of primates as well. So this is like a more general kind of thing. Is like, you've got mom focus, you learn things just from mom, what to eat, what not to eat, because that's very important. You have a sort of larger network of carers that you might learn from, other adults you watch. And it's not like these all drop away. You still learn, from everyone. But then you start to have, older children have these peer-to-peer networks. And it's really interesting once you get into the bigger, the more interesting apes. Basically all of them, except for poor old gibbons. The great apes. Poor lesser gibbons.
The clue's in the name.
Yeah.
Great
I know. It just feels so unfair to like
lesser gibbons.
There's like 3 types of them are great, and there's just one that's like, you're not great. Sorry. It's unfortunate. But anyway, so you think about something like gorillas. So gorillas have this complicated social structure where they've got like one male and a bunch of associated females. So gorillas have teenage boy bands. They have the equivalent of Stray Kids or BTS. Roaming,
where they just kind of go out and roam around,
roaming the rainforest,
performing
for each other largely. No, but like, so this is, they have age networks, age kind of based groups, and this happens in a lot of different primate species, and it is one of the ways that because people then go on to be members of different groups, that actually knowledge gets transmitted.
So they're all learning from each other as they're singing their songs or whatever it is that they're doing together.
Yeah, I suspect that gorilla boy bands are not in fact performing K-pop.
I've heard the choreo is terrible.
It's probably quite impressive. I'm sorry. I think we should all take a moment and just visualize that. Right. Breath. No, but like if you think about, sort of even something like a macaque. So a little macaque, which is a macaque is the monkey you think of if you think of a monkey, like the world's most generic monkey. They're all over the place. They're very common, and you think of Japanese macaques because Japanese macaques are the best. There's great examples because they have so many of these macaques and they've studied them for so long, where you can see kind of information transmission. So they used to have macaques that lived on an island and they used to get provisioned. They used to get sweet potatoes. And then one of the macaques worked out that if you dip the sweet potato in salt water, you've basically invented a salted potato, and it's delicious. And then because of the way that their group structures work, that one's female relatives then went around and other groups basically got that information, through transmission from the peer group. And it's a juvenile macaque that actually invented hot tubbing for monkeys.
I really wanted to bring up the monkeys in hot tubs and I thought, no, it's probably
we'll never get to that. We'll always get to the monkeys in hot tubs, Jen, just for you. No, so the if anyone's seen, those beautiful Nat Geo photos of the iconic monkeys with all the frost in their hair and they're just lounging. And I have
chilling there in their hot
they're
tub.
living a lifestyle.
And I've got like a postcard like on my desk, which is one of them who's stolen a tourist iPhone and it's just sitting there staring at the iPhone. And he's literally my favorite. So the great thing is these are macaques that lived in a region that basically in the 50s got a train. So mountain, kind of a little bit inaccessible, but they lived there. And people started to exploit, hotels were built to take advantage of the onsen, the hot springs, because it turns out there's another kind of primate that's super into hot tubbing. And it would be us, Jen, yes, you are correct. But these basically, they were, the macaques that at the end of the train line, there was the guy on a train who was in fact feeding them, so they were always hanging around. Then when tourists started to come to hotels, obviously they hung around. And the story is, and this is actually in a journal article in Acta Primatologica, it's published academically, is the recollection of someone who had talked to these people and said essentially there was an apple that got dropped in one of the onsen. And a braver sort of teenage Japanese macaque female went in after it and decided it was fine. And actually enjoyed it, didn't mind falling in the onsen, it was a lovely temperature. And slowly that behaviour got transmitted to the rest of the group until they all started deliberately putting themselves in the onsen, at which point they had to be physically removed and given their own special onsen somewhere where tourists weren't also trying to bathe.
Oh, that's incredible.
And that is why you get Japanese snow monkeys in a hot tub.
So that transmission of knowledge is seen in quite a lot of other species then, particularly our own primate cousins. Incredible.
So if you want to think about, what is later childhood for, well, it's learning to be a better monkey from your idiot friends who occasionally fall in a hot tub.
Yeah.
Now, can we take this a step further and can we see any evidence of this archaeologically? Is that something that we can access using the record we have available?
So it's hard. So it's really hard to do an archaeology of childhood. So I guess we can kind of see why it doesn't work out so well. You can think about things like, okay, what random object would you say represents a child? Well, a lot of the stuff we let children play with, particularly in the past, before plastics, would have been organic. It's a corn husk doll or a little play bow and arrow made out of twigs or something like that. They're disposable, they're biodegradable, and they don't survive. So you kind of need to get to a point where you've got something in bone or stone or just really good preservation where you're actually going to find some artifact. And then, how do you know it was for a kid? So we have these lovely dolls. They're not really dolls, are they? Dolls. We have these doll things that show up in kind of classical Greece. And they're lovely. They've got jointed arms and legs. They've got lovely hairstyles. They're clearly, if you and I looked at them with our cultural background, we'd be like, doll.
Yeah.
Call that a doll. And that's what everyone did. Call them a doll. But these dolls are found in very specific contexts. They're found only in the graves of girls up to a certain age, or they're found in temple deposits.
Right.
So they are clearly an artifact that's actually associated with the end of girlhood.
Yeah.
And probably a transition to a more sort of adult status. So is that a child's toy as we would understand it? Or is it,
And was it actually ever something that person interacted with regularly? Or as you say, was it just a signifier of...
Yeah, is it? Yeah. So like just finding like the material culture evidence of children is actually really hard.
It's difficult, isn't it? Because it's kind of, I don't think anyone's ever done the archaeology of toys. And kind of when do toys become a concept? We know this play because we have classical texts kind of referring to kind of children playing and things. But as you said, are they just playing with smaller versions of adult stuff?
Or even adult size versions of things as well?
Yeah.
That's an area of play currently is using objects that are found in your everyday life and just given to children to interact with the way they wish.
A toy's just probably a Victorian invention, like most things are kind of tend to be a Victorian invention.
Well, I think so. If you think of a toy as something that is deliberately created to be played with by a child, I would guess that humans for a very, very long time have given objects to children to shut them up.
Yes.
Here's a flower. Oh God, don't eat it. Okay, no, here's a rock. Oh God, please don't eat that. Like you can imagine, this scenario. But like, so people think, well, you could have toys, and these are two categories that sort of do exist. Is it a smaller version, or is it, for instance, a broken adult version? And if so, how would you identify that a child's played with it? And this is a great quote from a friend of mine, Becky Ragg-Sykes, who once pointed out, it's like, is there anything on an archaeological site that contains children that a child hasn't touched?
It's a great question.
It's a great question. But just finding it is so difficult. I mean, sometimes, so for example, Roman sites, you occasionally get a footprint. So where an annoying toddler has run across some roof tiles, normally after a cat or a dog as well. So you can occasionally see the footprints of them. I know in Pompeii there's possible child graffiti, but my understanding is that's because it's lower, so people just assume it's the child.
The Pompeii stuff is also, like, if you look at it, it's either the result of a psychedelic or it's a child's drawing. Like, the proportions aren't cool.
Yeah.
There's something wrong. But yeah, so it is. So we can find physical evidence of children. So there are footprints that predate our species.
Yeah.
Haysborough, Laetoli, that seem to indicate smaller individuals that give us an idea of, like, children existing. I mean, we know they had to exist, right? We can't be here if they didn't. Yeah. But, their actual physical presence. There are in the funny limestone, they're called moon milk caves in Upper Powell, kind of France, Germany, and they've got this kind of limestone, soft, crumbly limestone, and you can kind of just, it's like mud, right? And you can just run your fingers down it, and they've got finger flutings, and if you measure the width of the finger, you can see that it's done by a very small person.
Yeah.
So we think that there are, children making these fluting marks with their parents in the Upper Powell. And you can also do the same, size of hand versus fingerprint on pot. So in the American Southwest, there are pottery workshops where people deliberately looked at, hey, these pots are really terrible. I wonder how big the fingerprints are on them.
It's quite a harsh assumption, isn't it?
Well, how else are you going to learn craft specialization, Jen? You got to start somewhere. If I made a pot, it would be terrible. Actually, and my fingerprints are fully adult size. So it's there are ways to kind of look at, like, the physical traces. But one of the things to think about is, like, you can also kind of look at the structures we've got for kids exclusively. So you can look at those kind of, like, age group things.
Yeah.
We don't have guerrilla boy bands, but we do have schools.
Yeah.
And we have a lot of archaeology about kind of that more formal period, particularly for wealthy people.
Yeah.
That we, put kids through.
Mm.
Things, we've got lovely text for it and everything.
We do, and there is of course material culture that kind of comes with that, with people learning to read and to write, and you start to kind of see bits like that in terms of classical and kind of later kind of medieval and post-medieval archaeology.
And earlier.
And earlier.
Yeah, so we got the favourite, which is it's called Old School Days.
Yeah.
So it's I'll get this wrong, but it's so it's sort of Babylonian, sort of very traditional. It's at some point Assyrians Empire, and basically they had to do the same thing that the Brits and the Europeans did, which is they had to learn Latin despite the fact that nobody spoke it, and they all had to do this with Sumerian. So all the Assyrians had to go to school in order to be administrators, and they had to learn Sumerian because that was still the language of all the court documents, all the administration. And there is this this text, and it gets reproduced a billion times, not a billion times, who knows how many times, probably not a billion, there weren't that many Assyrians. But like, we found, like, archaeologists have dug up many different copies of this and slightly altered. So it's clearly like a formulaic text. And it's just someone writing out, I was late to Sumerian school today because my mother forgot my lunch and I got caned.
That is so
My
relatable.
shirt was not tucked in and I got caned.
I mean, the caning part maybe less so, but a lot of those things, many of our teenagers today would have experienced.
Yeah, but it goes through the whole list. So the handwriting was poor, caning. Spoke out in class, caning. Didn't answer the question, caning. I mean, clearly caning was like, the beating was an important part of the Sumerian school day.
Dog ate the homework?
Not present. Interesting. The origin of dog ate my homework must be quite antique, but apparently not.
No.
Not quite that old,
Yeah.
I'm gonna go Victorian again. I reckon, yeah. Well, it's whenever you get pets. Although of course pets are something that actually people sometimes associate with children as well. So kind of the keeping
a really good point,
of small animals, all those kind of things.
I think one of the earliest examples of those physical traces of childhood is actually a child's footprint next to a giant dog's footprint.
Oh, wow.
So it's like it's in a sort of fairly soft surface in the floor of a cave, and I think it's really old. I think it's like 30. Like 30 KYA, so 30,000 or something. I may have gotten that wrong. Fact check.
That is quite early, yeah.
But it's next to a large canid paw print. Yeah, it might be 13, it might be 30. Someone who's read the book, or someone who later edits this video for facts.
And maybe put some text over that to say whether you're correct or not. So, yeah.
It's never happened in this podcast history.
Yes, no. So if you're watching on YouTube or Spotify, you'll now know whether Brenna was correct.
This could be just a fun guessing game we play. It's like, was Brenna correct by the random thing she said? We hope. But yeah, so like, but we do, the pet thing, and the pet thing comes up at Pompeii as well, is that we think that actually one of the really important jobs for kids was animal keeping. Like, what can you trust a kid with? Apparently not pots, but pet keeping. So by the time you get to somewhere that's got lovely text records, you get things like Egypt, appropriate job for children and elderly sort of men. Is basically the decrepit society. Children and elderly men.
Elderly women are too busy kind of doing important stuff.
Yes, one assumes. But one of the jobs you can give them is to manage a baboon.
Okay.
Specifically a date-gathering baboon.
I did have a lot of questions about baboons why they were being managed, so that
I'm not
has clarified. I don't know.
I'm not sure you can manage a baboon. I think it was a poor choice. But so date palms, very inconvenient where the dates are versus how tall humans are. It's quite far up. Baboons, not a problem. Good climbers.
Just how would you get the baboon back down with the dates?
Well, you need a child or an elderly man to manage the baboon, clearly.
I'm not sure I'd want my child to be managing a baboon as a society.
Professional baboon wrangler.
I mean, definitely not like your best child. You'd kind of maybe send like the one you didn't like.
It's a spin I didn't think to put on it. But
Yeah.
But this is written in the documentation.
Their
that
text
this is
record.
something that was happening. Wow.
There's actually images. People have drawn it. The baboons for some reason have spots. That's not what baboons look like. I think it was one of those. Have you ever seen a baboon? Yeah, sure, I could draw one.
Okay. So in terms of material culture, it's actually what we've come around to is it's actually quite difficult to spot children. But one of the ways you can is through items of clothing. Because actually, and the few items of clothing where you can say that was probably for a child, brings us to footwear. So and the picture we've got on the screen here. So Brenna, would you like to?
Could you describe the picture for our listeners, please?
Yes. So the picture that we've got up is a shoe. It is in fact a child's shoe, and it was retrieved from a salt mine in Austria. And it's I think about 2,000 years old, and this shoe is of a size to clearly be worn by a child. It is not for an adult human being. So it's a child's shoe, probably someone around the ages of 7-ish. And it is found inside the salt mine, which is the really key part. So Hallstatt is a major salt industry, and we know, because there's been some really fascinating, fabulous archaeology about it, that clearly, they were putting children down the mine.
Yeah.
So what time period was this? Sorry, just to
I think it's about 2,000 years ago.
Right.
Yeah, so it's kind of a European Iron Age as well.
Yeah.
It actually, Hallstatt is so famous it gives the term to parts of the European Iron Age.
And there is a name for a plateau in the dating curve known after the Hallstatt.
Oh, I did not know
plateau,
that. Is
because
it the
it's
Hallstatt
famously
plateau?
really difficult to refine the chronologies of that era.
It's also gorgeous. If you ever get a chance, I've been to Hallstatt and I've been to the Salt Mine Museum there, and it is an amazing sight. And it is this gorgeous, gorgeous village on the lake shore.
Unless you were a 7-year-old salt miner.
It was clearly forced to enter into this. So tell us more about this, Brenna.
So this is the other side. We've been talking about lovely Sumerian scribal school, which is wonderful when you're an elite Assyrian. But it turns out that 90% of the world has not been an elite Assyrian in this life or, the next. And a lot of children do not, this is kind of, So Hallstatt, if you're sending children down the mines, they're probably working quite hard. And in fact, when they excavated a cemetery associated with salt mines, they did in fact find children's remains that had serious wear and tear on them, right? They had they had things wrong with their vertebra. Ooh. They had things wrong generally that you might think of as associated with heavy labour. You don't normally see that in human skeletons until people are quite old.
Yeah.
But if you're getting wear and tear on a child's body, that is an intense amount of physical stress.
So that's the bone reacting to having to do a huge amount of activity.
It's the bone reacting, and obviously if there are children in the cemetery with marks like that, they have died young.
Yeah.
They have died young. So it was clearly not a glorious school day. I mean, I think most people would choose to be caned by the Sumerian master.
I'd rather be looking after the baboons.
I think it would be baboons for everyone, right? But this is kind of the thing, is that actually, the way we think about childhood, we've got these rules about, no, you have to go to school. Because because childhood is special, it's a special period, you need to be learning, it is important, it would be inhumane, and that we used to also send children down the mines at 7.
We used to have, from a northern perspective, children working in the mills at very young ages.
My granddad's left school at 12 left home at 12 and school to go work as a farmhand, kind of on the outskirts of Sheffield. So and talks about driving cattle into Sheffield.
And this is like my grandma left school at 16, and that was accounted pretty amazing for a woman of her generation and background. This was, and here I am with a PhD. Like this is an enormous change.
Yeah.
And that's cultural.
Yeah.
That's complete decision culturally that we've decided, actually kids should go to primary school. Now it's, I think, obligatory to go to 18. And that's only changed in the last
Yeah.
5-10 years or
Yeah.
something. It
Yeah.
used to be 16 and
Yeah.
you could leave. So like those are big cultural, like, no, society sat down, had a think and said, nope, you need to have this period of childhood and you need to do this in it, and you can't be going down the mines. Which is obviously something that happens in every society in slightly different ways. And it's really, really noticeable because obviously some people get to do that and some people don't.
Yeah.
And you might think about university attendance in the same way, particularly now that you have to pay for it.
Well, that's a great way to end, Brenna. Thank you.
Free university education for everyone.
Says the academics. Yes,
Absolutely.
yeah. Everyone should go to university. Yeah. I think that kind of very nicely draws to us actually the difficulty of kind of archaeologists investigating this topic, because there's that difficulty that actually it's a social construct, and that our image of childhood is very different to actually what childhood was in the past, and therefore we're looking for bits of material culture that kind of we may not understand, or might not kind of be there.
It's incredibly culturally specific, isn't it, as you demonstrated? So, yeah, I can see what the challenge has been.
Yeah. So, thank you very much, Brenna, for allowing us to dig deeper, extending the trench that is the archaeology of childhood. I think we may have to not use that metaphor.
It's quite a cliche, that one, yeah.
It's quite a cliche.
Yeah. Sondage?
Sondage, yeah. I mean,
sondage.
I think that's just purely for the archaeologists, the sondage. I think most people would now be going, what are they talking about?
Something for the specialists.
I feel after the last episode, we kind of half-sectioned the pit.
Oh, God. Oh, my God, no.
Now we've excavated the full pit.
Oh! Nice. I love it.
Okay, we really need to draw this to a close now. So thank you very much, Brenna. We didn't get to talk about menopause, which I'm slightly upset about, but we'll have to bring you back.
We can do another episode.
And talk about menopause.
There's certainly loads more we could talk about.
Because I think that's a really interesting part of kind of what you talk about in your book in terms of childhood and the importance of the older generation in terms of raising children. But we'll leave the listener to kind of with that thought.
That's for season 2.
Yeah. So I've been Dr. Jim Morris.
I've been Dr. Jen Jones.
And this has been the Archaeology of Childhood, Part 2.
Thank you for listening to the Archaeology of. You can watch the show on our YouTube channel and on Spotify. Please subscribe wherever you get your podcasts, and if you'd be kind enough to leave us a review and rating, we would really appreciate that. See you in the next episode.